Welcome back, Internet. Jack Attack here, and we're looking at the game Citadels, which has just popped up on Steam. This will be a first impressions kind of video where I show you what the game is about. I've played for about an hour now, so I can probably give you a fairly good idea about what the game involves and what it's got, promising into the future. And there'll also be like a review in the same process as well. So Citadels is a action strategy game published by Bit Composer Games and developed by Games Distillery, and I think it has influences from Age of Empires and Stronghold Crusader, which is games I love, and I instantly saw this and like, well, I gotta check this out. Now, there is a single player campaign, but I'm going to actually just jump into a skirmish mission to show you to start off with. It's a great way of showing how the game actually works. So it's a one-on-one battle with a AI. Now the game is it's kind of like, I think, an updated version of Stronghold, possibly what Stronghold 3 should have been, but there are some quirks with the game at the moment as well. So there are a couple of bugs which I encountered when I first started it up, especially when changing the resolution, but I have restarted the game and I think most of those quirks have been ironed out. So the game involves you collecting resources, and there are 8 types of resources, as you can see in the top there, and much like Stronghold or Age of Empires, you need to build a resource place to collect them. Now some of the tooltips seem to be missing, and I think with the patches hopefully they'll be putting out, they've already put out one patch this morning, they should be improving on these. So for example, there's a resource production buildings, so a lumber den. There seems to be lots of wood up here, so we'll build this here, and you can use the scroll wheel to rotate to your liking, and we'll get a couple guys to build this. And when you tell them to build it, at least one guy has to go back to the main town to collect the resources to build the building. It always seems to be one sack, and that kind of reminds me of Prison Architect, which I recently played, with having to do that. You can assign up to a certain amount of workers onto the building to collect, I think it's up to 6 workers on a lumberyard to get wood, and the same thing for farms as well. So we will build a farm. Some nice open pile of ground here, so let's build one farm out here, and there can be 3 workers per farm. Now, some things that I thought were missing from the game were the idle workers function, because these workers seem to just hang around once they've finished doing their job. But thankfully I looked into the options menu. In terms of video settings, there's not too much to look at. There's resolution full screen. At least you can change the shadows and whatnot to be for your computer's capabilities. But under controls, there's literally, that's all the controls. But thankfully there is a show next idle peasant and Y, which sends all idle peasants to the town hall, which I found to be very, very useful. So stone is another resource which you need to build a little hut together, and they have a limited amount of 3,000 each, which seems to be, and there's 6,000 in total there, which seems to be an absolute huge amount. The next thing is that you need to build sheds, which are houses for your workers. So in the top right there you can see I've got 12 out of 12, so I've got a capacity of 12, and I'll automatically build or get a worker every, I think it's like every, I don't know how long it is, but it seems to be about every 10 seconds for free. But there are some things which are missing from the game which I'd really like to see patched in. One of those is that when this builder finishes building this house, he won't automatically do anything else. He won't go and build the next house, which I find to be kind of an annoying issue, since I've kind of used that from other games. Another thing also is that I have no idea what this means. I can put it up to 60%, 40 now, and down to 10. So if I can figure out what that does, that would be great to know. So I'm getting stone, I can put one more worker on there. Just trying to rally point over to the side so it's closer to things. And I'm getting wood. So I'm going to fast forward in a moment and I'll cut to a bit further throughout the game. Now there obviously seems to be some problem with the AI. They're spamming me with all their peasants. I just got attacked by about 20 peasants from the AI. In this mode it's just a kind of like a duel. It's one-on-one. And I'm trying to build up a force to attack them, but they're just deciding to throw every peasant they've got at me, which I presume was going to hinder them somewhat. Army controls are a bit finicky as well in terms of formations. It's kind of a set formation, but you've got different stances like aggressive, defensive. Defensive is like a limited range. Passive, which is do nothing, and then stop. It says stop unit and remove assignment to gather building. Gather buildings? Don't really know what that one means either. So to build military units, you have to grab a villager, and he kind of grabs the resources needed to build a soldier, and then he trains himself up to be a soldier. So the villagers thing is kind of good, because you're always using that same kind of function to, that same resource to build, I guess, soldiers or whatnot. As you can see, I have a whole lot of villagers around here, but pushing Y is a good thing, because now they're all coming out of their hiding holes. There are a couple of these things around the game where you've got defensive buildings which you can pick up. There's also supposedly legendary characters, so I presume things like King Arthur and whatnot which you can unlock. Another bug that I found is that keyboard shortcuts aren't apparent in this grid here, but I can find if I push the Q key it seems to be the top left, and I can push Q again to build the shed, which is great. But the problem is I can push Q and then push W, which would build the second item, and that's the large storage unit, which I don't have unlocked currently. Now this is kind of a funny bug where I can now build something which I wouldn't be able to build because the keyboard short allows me. So hopefully, oh, they've got catapults. This is kind of an issue. So these are the bugs that oh wow, watch him destroy himself. Nope, that nearly landed on top of him. There's friendly fire in this game, so these are the kind of the bugs which hopefully will be patched out fairly soon. So another amusing glitch that I found with these shortcuts. One of them's a bug, one of them's a glitch. Well, I don't know if it's intentional or not. The first one is that there's no shift control for adding units. If I have half these guys selected, I can't hold shift or something like that to select more. There might be a button for that, but obviously it's not very apparent to me. The other one is, with those shortcuts I was saying earlier, how you could push, say, Q and then push another button to find one that, like, to get a building that you haven't unlocked yet. Turns out if I push F, it unlocks a website. Interesting. So now I'm going to attack from a catapult in my base. The notification sound for when you get an alert. The same thing for you've got no resources is the same sound for you're under attack, which makes it kind of, I guess not annoying in a sense, but it's kind of hard to figure out what's actually supposed to be happening. That is an awful lot of fire for one building. And the one problem I found is that if I want to join, say, this tower, because my enemy's over here on the map, if I want to join these two towers up, I would build a wall, which would kind of make sense. If I tell it to build a wall, which is the top one, here, I can click here on the tower and build it out, but you'll see that the problem is that it's like, it doesn't adjust for that change, and it seems that I can move it up and down against the wall, but knowing what the command is to do that, it doesn't seem to be very obvious. So hopefully those types of commands will either be available for us to change things around, or become a lot more apparent if is there one already. I'm about to charge into their base with a military force because we've hit the late game where I've been able to upgrade my town hall, and now I've built like a sawmill which has guys taking wood. Why do I have a notification from? Wow, one of my guys just went for a run. Where they take the wood and then turn it into planks. I have a baker somewhere who is taking stone cutter, cutting up stone. That's the one I'm trying to think of. A baker one is going to be built next, so I'll build it right in here. Sounds like we're under attack again. There's no right behind that wall. So you can see here. But if I get all my peasants to attack him, here we go. The sound seems to be playing for some reason, even these guys up here. It is a very pretty game. In terms graphically, I do like the style. The night-day cycle seems to be quite dark at times. A bit more contrast, a bit more brightness would be much appreciated. And then the game crashed. So it's a bit hard to show you off in terms of the late game. The first time I played the tutorial, it was smooth as anything, but for some reason I tried to build a certain building which I had built before, the game completely crashed. Now, it doesn't seem that stable yet, but I think with a bit more polish, a bit more development in terms of patches, this game will be quite a fun game to play. Currently, there are a couple of different game modes, but the problem is they're a bit hard to determine what there actually is. So when you first boot it up, there's a continue game, which doesn't really make any sense because we haven't made any already. There's a new game where it says Knights of the Round Table and then Invaders. Now, Knights of the Round Table, I presume, is the main campaign which I played, and you start off after the fall of Camelot, and you then take the role of King Arthur. Invaders seems to be another one, I think another campaign with a different set of difficulties. There's Skirmish as well with Gold Rush, Castle Defense and Duel, which I think are kind of obvious. I was playing Duel then in Castle Defense, and presumably you have to have one castle against waves of enemy. But if you click Continue Game, you can then click on Choose Map, and then choose a map you've already played. Now, it's a bit weird that they give you the option to pick a map. Overall, Citadels, it's a mixed bag. I like it. It's the type of game that I would really enjoy playing, and I will go back to it and continue playing through that main campaign. The first mission was just building a base up and then attacking the enemy, and the second mission was escorting King Arthur. We might log into that now while I talk about the rest of the game. So in this mission we have to escort King Arthur, and it's more of an escort mission and then capturing a village to then build up and then take out the other guy. Overall, I think this game, it's a mixed bag, but it's a good mixed bag. I quite enjoy this game. Graphically, it's solid. There is a 3D interface, a 3D environment, which is quite nice to look at. And there could be a couple extra things like a bit more color variation, whatnot. Would be lovely to see. But the animations are okay. They're decent. There have been plenty of worse games I've played than this, and this is fine for me. I don't need a AAA polished title. I just want something which I can have fun and enjoy with. In terms of other things to do with the interface, some of it's a bit clunky in terms of the main menu, trying to figure out where to go. I have to find Excalibur, which I think there it is, around here. In terms of sound, some of the music is really lovely. Sometimes there's no music at all, and I feel that could be changed a bit more. In terms of actual gameplay, it's got this consistent way of going, in terms of an early game and then building up through into the late game. But there seems to be a bit of issues in terms of pacing. The enemy likes to attack straight away without building up much of a force, and especially when you see their enemy bases, like these kinds of places which are built already on the map look nice. They look gorgeous. When I versed an enemy, he built houses kind of in this grid pattern, just pushing out into the wilderness, and it just seemed very repetitive, and it doesn't look that great. Let's move into this village. There seems to be quite a lot of content in this game. There is especially plenty of missions. There seems to be 8 missions in both the campaigns. I think this game has definitely got its perks. If you're interested in like Age of Empires Stronghold games, but don't mind having a game which is a bit rough around the edges, do have a look at this game. It's currently on sale for 10% off. The pricing I won't say because it varies between different regions. I'm in New Zealand and that's very different to other regions around the world. But I think there's quite a lot of content in this game, but if you are interested but a bit unsure in terms of it seems like it's a bit buggy at the moment, just hold off and keep an eye on it. I hope that with a couple of patches this game will be much easier to play and it will be a much more polished experience. I hope you enjoyed this first look at Citadels. It's a game which I'm actually enjoying, and it's something which seems pretty rough around the edges. I'm pretty forgiving as well, bear in mind, but it's a game which I think will give a lot of fun, especially if you have those giant siege battles. Doesn't seem to be any multiplayer in the game, by the way. There are some issues with the game, but I do enjoy the game, and I hope that if you like what you've seen, you will enjoy it as well. Thanks for watching, guys. My name's Jack Attack, and we'll see you later.